يذكر فتنفع الذكرى أما من استغنى فأنت له تصدى وما عليك ألا يزكى وأما من جاءك يسعى وهو يخشى فأنت عنه تلهى كلا إنها تذكرة فمن شاء ذكر في صحف مكرمة مرفوعة مطهرة بأيدي سفرة كرام بررة الإنسان ما أكفره من أي شيء خلقه من نطفة خلقه فقدره ثم السبيل يسره ثم أماته فقبره خلقنا الأرض شقا فأنبتنا فيها حبا وعنبا وقضبا وزيتونا ونخلا وحدائق غلبا وفاكهة وأبا متاعا لكم ولأنعامكم فإذا جاءت الصاخة يوم يفر المرء من أخيه وأمه وأبيه وصاحبته وبنيه لكل امرئ منهم يومئذ شأن يغني وجوه يومئذ مسفرة ضاحكة مستبشرة ووجوه يومئذ عليها غبرة ترهقها قترة أولئك هم الكفرة الفجرة. صدق الله العظيم.
يا نبي سلام عليك يا رسول سلام عليك يا حبيب سلام عليك صلوات الله عليك يا نبي سلام عليك يا رسول السلام عليك يا حبيب سلام عليك صلوات الله عليك طلع البدر علينا من ثنيات الوداع وجب الشكر علينا ما دعا لله داعي يا نبي سلام عليك يا رسول سلام عليك يا حبيب سلام عليك صلوات الله عليك तेरी आरज़ू में मरना तेरी जोस्तजो में जीना यही मेरी जिंदगी है यही मेरे बंदगी है या नबी सलाम अलैका या रसूल सलाम अलैका या हबीब सलाम अलैका सलावातुल्लाह अलैका रहमतों के ताज वाले दो जहां के राज वाले अर्श के मेराज वाले आसियों के लाज वाले या नबी सलाम अलैका या रसूल सलाम अलैका या हबीब सलाम अलैका सलावातुल्लाह अलैका या नबी सलाम अलैका या रसूल सलाम अलैका या हबीब सलाम अलैका सलावातुल्लाह अलैका
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والله أخرجكم من بطون أمهاتكم لا تعلمون شيئا وجعل لكم السمع والأبصار والأفئدة لعلكم تشكرون صدق الله العظيم. Alhamdulillah, you know, the brothers here and even the sisters and all those watching online, you perhaps offered your Asr Salah by now, and the brothers here obviously we read as a Jamaat, which is good. And I'm sure many people here and those watching online, the sisters and the brothers, they have performed other amals today on the blessed day of Friday. Perhaps you recited Surah Al-Kahf, perhaps you did your tasbih after the Asr Salah, and other amals a person can do. Perhaps there are people here who are very generous when it comes to giving funds for charity. Perhaps there are people here who have been on the Hajj, for example, recently, not so long ago, or in the past, or you performed the Umrah. So the question is, you know exactly what you've done in your life. You know exactly how much worship you do on a regular basis. You know that, not me. So the question that has to be asked is that why are we not where we want to be spiritually? What's the problem? Perhaps you pray 5 times a day, great. Perhaps you pray more. You pray Salat al-Tahajjud, etc., etc. Perhaps you do your zikr every day, which we should be doing anyway. Perhaps you do many things which are very good acts of worship. So the question that has to be asked is then, what's the problem? What's the barrier? What's stopping me and you from becoming a wali of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Because there has to be an answer. Well, there is an answer, but luckily there's a solution as well. You see, the barrier more often than not is not us and our worship per se. It's not us and how we pray or how many times we pray or how generous we are when it comes to giving funds to charity. Sometimes the barrier and the obstacle or the challenge really is other people. It's creation. It's your neighbour. It's your colleague. It's your friend. It's the animal down the street that perhaps you pay no attention to. It's the trees outside. It's the rocks, the stones that perhaps people think there's no life within. Sometimes these are the barrier, or these are really the. You see, the awliya and Mashaykh have taught us that when you know how to treat these things, or i.e. creation, all of these things can be used as a stepping stone to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to gain His pleasure. So what I will do is, to save time, is I'm going to briefly give 5 key points from a very righteous and pious scholar, Hazrat Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal. Now this Imam, understand, he's no regular Imam. He was a teacher of greats such as Hazrat Imam Ghazali rahmatullah alayhi. Just to give you a brief example of how great Imam this person was. This blessed Imam knew 1 million hadith. 1 million. Not a few dozen or 100 or 1,000, 1 million. So when such a person has a knowledge of 1 million hadith and the Quran, we know we should take their advice seriously, because they are coming with an ocean full of knowledge behind them. And they summarize just 5 points, 5 key points that if myself and yourself apply, then inshallah you too can achieve the friendship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, like our blessed teacher who taught us this as well. Now just bear one thing in mind for the purpose of today's bayan. When I say we, I don't just mean the brothers here and the sisters watching online or anybody watching online. When I say we, I'm talking about all animals, all plants, all rocks, even the walls and the ceiling, etc., that perhaps people don't contemplate or reflect. You see, the Prophet ﷺ said, to the nearest effect, in my own words, I'm going to paraphrase that, Mount Uhud loves me and I love Mount Uhud. I mean, these are rocks, this is a mountain. Yet they knew mountains have feelings, rocks have feelings, they are animated with life. You see, the Muslims have always been the most inclusive people of all. We always have been. Not this new thing about inclusivity. It's not a modern phenomenon, or no. The Muslims have always been the most inclusive. We always care about the non-Muslims. We care about animals. Animal rights began with the Muslims. Women's rights began with the Muslims. Way before the European civilization introduced animals or women's rights. And this is in known history. They cannot deny this. No, we have always been the most inclusive of people, regardless of their background, their age, their race, etc., etc. No, Muslims understand even rocks have life, something the scientists have not yet discovered. And I'll prove this. You have, like our blessed teacher said not so long ago, you have vegetarians or vegans, I'm not sure which one's the most politically correct. Apparently, did you know, saying vegetarian to somebody is offensive apparently. I don't know how, but I said something about vegetarian once. I don't care, I'm a semi-vegetarian myself. And I said they were vegetarian, and I said, oh no, you can't say that. I go, what do you mean? He goes, no, we are plant-based. So, another snowflake. Anyway, so apparently, okay, plant-based people, if they are going to eat vegetables and these things on the basis that, animals have feelings, we don't want to harm them, well, look at the Venus Flytrap. Has anybody heard what the Venus Flytrap even is? I want to ask the kids, because you're on some holidays now, you need to listen more than anything. Has anybody seen or heard of a Venus flytrap? It's a plant, okay. Because no one put your hand up, I have to go in detail now. So a Venus flytrap is a plant, and its leaves are like this. It has 2 leaves like this. And it has these like tentacle-like stalk sticking out. Now, don't do this, by the way. It's a kind of zulm in one way. So the Venus flytrap, if you ever look on social media, if a fly lands inside the 2 leaves, the Venus flytrap does this. It closes its leaves. At this speed, more or less. Not too fast, not too slow. It closes its leaves and it traps the fly. And then the rest is history. The point is that the Venus flytrap is obviously alive. It has nerves. It has feelings. So anybody who says, I'm going to be a vegetarian, plant-based, I'm going to have a plant-based diet because animals have feelings, well, so do plants. In that case, good luck, you're going to starve yourself to death. But no, alhamdulillah, the Muslims we've had the correct understanding of creation. What has life? And we know obviously on the Day of Judgment, creation will come forth and testify for or against a particular person or people, depending on how they treated them. So now we've clarified what I mean by we, I mean everything. Everything you see, everything you touch, everything you hear, this is creation. So the first point the Blessed Imam said, that myself and yourself kind of understand is, spend your wealth on people, but never demand payback. Meaning spend what you have on people, but never ever expect anything back. Now when I say spend your wealth, I don't necessarily mean money, because not everybody can give money. Perhaps you can give your time to a person or people. Perhaps you can give your knowledge to a person. Perhaps you can give a particular resource to people. Anything. Try to benefit creation, try to benefit people and other animals and these things as much as you can. So the reason I say anything you have, because like I said, obviously there were kids here, there were children. Obviously you don't have money as such because you're not working, but ask yourself, what do you have? What asset do you possess that you're probably thinking now, well, maybe I can give this to such person, I can help people with this, I have such a knowledge or a skill I can share with people. Ask yourself this. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't look necessarily at what you have, but He's looking at what are you giving from. Because He knows more than anyone what you have. Now from what you have, what can you give? Now I'm going to ask the children here, well, any of the youth especially, because now you're on summer holidays. Well, think again. You may think you're on summer holidays, but every day is a school day. So I'm going to ask the youth in particular. Think back to food and shelter, everything they could possibly want. He loves to give. But it's creation, people like me and you, we love to take, we want more, give me more. This is the nature of mankind. I'll put this to you. Has anybody here been to Turkey? Come on, raise your hands, okay. A few people, okay. Let me rephrase the question. Now watch, we're going to have more hands raised. Anybody here watch Ertugrul? There you go, okay. Well done. I'm surprised no one did this. Oh, well done, Bay. Don't ask about Ertugrul, by the way, because if you ask them out this, years of watching the show, how far I got in 2 years. It's quite funny, I don't know whether Jabrid knows. For 2 years I was watching the show. Do you know how many episodes I watched? 18 episodes, that was it. I don't have time, but I don't know, it's very good. Anyway, so Ertugrul, okay, it's set in Turkey. Now in Turkey you have these people called the whirling dervish. These people, the dervish. It's a very beautiful form, but the message behind the whirling dervish is rather deep actually. Even though to the eye it may seem pleasant. See, the whirling dervish, for those who don't know who they are or what they do, they stand on a particular spot and they swirl around and around on this particular spot. And this in itself has a message, because they do this with complete balance, and they have one hand up here and one hand down here. And this is often a symbol of Sufism, but what the whirling dervish is actually telling us that particular person, he's telling me and you that everything we have should revolve around Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They are revolving, they are spinning and spinning. And if you look carefully, look at the eyes of the dervish. And this is something actually ballet dancers do very well. I'm sure they copy the Turks. Anyway, look at the eyes in the face, because when the dervish spins around, he picks one spot, and as he spins, the head is the last thing that turns, and he keeps looking at the one spot. So the head quickly switches, looks at the one spot, switches around, looks at the one spot. So he's spinning around, meaning everything he has, or we have, we should focus purely and revolve around Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's command, focus and revolve our lives around his preference, what he wants. Now, that's the body itself. Now look at the hands. What did the hands symbolize? What did they represent? You see, one hand is up here and one hand is down here. The hand up here represents Allah Ta'ala giving us everything we need, everything we have, because he's the one that constantly gives. The other hand down here, however, is giving to people, giving to mankind. So this is receiving from the Lord, this is giving to creation. And this is the symbol of the word in Dervish. Meaning Allah Ta'ala, like I said, he loves to give, mankind loves to take. And the more you give to creation, the more Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give to you. Can I just ask, in fact, can I just ask one of the brothers to bring me a glass of water, please? It's a bit of a, I'm thirsty, and B, it's a bit of a visual prop I'm going to require. Does anybody here, when I ask this brother here, these brothers, do you do geography by any chance? Geography in school? Just nod, yes, you don't have to say anything. No. Anybody here geography? Okay, good, we have a couple of hands, well done. Okay, in geography, again, just put your hand up. Have you studied the water cycle? Okay, well done. More people. You didn't do geography a minute ago. How do you know the water cycle? Okay, I'll let you off. Good boy. At least you're listening. That's good. Right, the water cycle. Now, we're in Bolton, sunny Bolton, and where I'm from, Hyde, we're slightly high up in elevation. We're near the hills, beautiful high greenery and nice fresh water. Jolo, let's say Bolton's the same. Now, we're in Bolton. Now, if you travel, let's say about an hour towards the west, the M62, you'll come to a city called Liverpool. Now in Liverpool, I want to try to keep a straight face and not mock anyone from Liverpool. In Liverpool you have what's called, well, besides many Scousers, you have the Irish Sea. You can come to the Irish Sea. It's what Liverpool is, near the coast. No offence to anybody from Liverpool, by the way. But you have the Irish Sea. You see, what happens is the closer inland you go, let's say where we are in England, the higher up you are in elevation. And what happens is the rain falls on the hills and the water lands and the grass and the greenery, and it slowly runs down into the rivers, into the water streams, and then it ends up in the Irish Sea. Now what happens is the water, as it lands, it benefits the soil, it benefits the plants, it benefits the animals, it benefits the humans, because we get our water from reservoirs, we can drink, and eventually it all flows downhill into the Irish Sea, or the sea. Now what happens once the water arrives in the sea, it then evaporates. You have evaporation going up into the sky. You also have precipitation from the trees, and the water goes back up, makes clouds, the wind blows the clouds, and it becomes back to where it started, and we get more rain, and then this cycle continues again and again. So Allah Ta'ala is showing us in nature that the more you give out to creation, the more He will give you. He loves to give, and mankind will love to receive. And this is a cycle, or the water cycle in nature. Because you see, if you have a puddle, let's say a deep puddle, anywhere in the hills or anywhere, that water isn't going anywhere anytime soon because it's deep, it's static. Now what happens is with this water, if it's static, it's not moving anywhere, it's not benefiting anyone, Jazakallah, good timing. So let's say, for example, this is a puddle. Thank you, Brother John. So let's say this is a puddle and it's not going anywhere, the water's staying there. Eventually it will become stale. It will become contaminated, and maybe the colour will change even. It's not benefiting anyone. This is how it is with money or anything you have. If you're not giving, nothing's going to happen as such. But the moment you give out, so Bismillah, this cup will eventually become empty, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will somehow fill it back up. This is what the Blessed Imam is saying, that keep giving out to creation, and Allah ta'ala will keep giving you back. Because at the end of the day, if you rely on people to give you anything back, this is of no good, it's not of no use, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Holy Quran that humans were like beggars really. This is the word used, like beggars. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can give you back more than you can ever imagine. In fact, I will mention briefly, now and at the end inshallah, a very blessed personality, somebody who we recently commemorated, Hazrat Uthman ibn Affan radhiyallahu anhu. They were very charitable. They used to give out everything they have. They would give out their time, their money, their land, their resources. And inshallah I'll go into a bit more detail towards the end, but they used to give out so much, but they used to also receive a lot from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They became rich, they became like millionaires, we would say today's day and age. And they will become so rich, they have so much wealth, that they actually approached the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam and asked, I have so much wealth, I have too much wealth, how can I stop Allah Ta'ala from giving me more and more money? So which the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam replied to the nearest effect, stop giving out to charity. That was it, that was the solution. Now the blessed companion, obviously they said, this is something I cannot do. I mean, he loved to give out for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He loved to help the needy, help the poor, help people that needed, whatever they needed. So this is proof in itself that the more you give to people and creation, the more Allah Ta'ala will give you. And this is a guaranteed fact. So that was point number one. Give out to creation, but never ever expect anything back. For it is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who will truly recompense you. Point number two. Fulfill the needs of people or creation or anyone. Fulfill their needs, but don't expect anything back. I mean, fulfill the haqq of people or anyone, your family, your friends, for the children here, fulfill the rights of your parents, fulfill the rights of everyone and everything, but never ever expect them to fulfill yours or to even say a thank you. Now ask yourself, who in your life can you apply this to? Who in your life perhaps you don't really spend much time with, or whose rights you're thinking, hold on, I remember such a person, they had a right I could have fulfilled. Well, now ask yourself, now you can have fulfilled that right, but never ever expect anything back. I'll give you an example. The blessed personality of Hazrat Imam Ghazali rahmatullah alayhi, they were once seen in a true dream that they were writing, and if anybody who knows their work, their accomplishments, they used to write literature, and when they would write a book, it was the book on that particular topic. It was the masterpiece on, let's say, philosophy or science or anything. When they wrote something, they wrote with immense wisdom, and that was the book Muslims and non-Muslims will turn to for advice. And they were a genius, an absolute genius, very, very intelligent person. Now, they were once writing the book, and obviously before we had pens and pencils, or tablets, computers obviously, they used to write with a quill. Now for those who don't know what a quill is, it's like a feather from a bird. And they would dip the quill into like a pot of ink and then write. And this is very It's not an easy task to do. I've tried this, and it takes immense patience and skill to dip the quill in and write a few words, dip the quill, write, and this is a repetitive practice a person does. And what's happened once they were writing with the quill, and a drop of ink dropped on the table. Now what's happened was something perhaps me and you wouldn't even think twice about. You see, a small fly came in, landed on the table near the drop of ink, and the fly began to drink the ink. Now this is me and you, or let's say perhaps anybody, we would perhaps just, shoot the fly away. Hopefully not to kill it, but shoot it away, so it's a fly. And obviously he's trying to work. He's trying to write the masterpiece. Now in his wisdom, he just stopped to fulfill the right of the fly to drink from this drop of ink. Now, a fly is only small, and the drop of ink is so small, so the fly obviously drank what it wanted to, and it flew away. Now afterwards, what's happened was, they came to learn that just because this great Imam fulfilled the rights of a fly, all of his sins were forgiven. All of the saghira, all the kabira, all the major and minor sins were forgiven purely because he allowed this fly to drink. Now, what's to say about allowing humans to drink water or fulfilling the rights of another human? We have with the Welfare Trust many projects. We have water wells being constructed around the world. We have this Man versus Mountain Challenge. There are sisters and brothers doing this, and there are so many people out that we can help, me and you, even if it's £1 we give to benefit somebody to fulfill their rights. We can't even imagine how much Allah Ta'ala can reward us potentially if we do it with the right intention, of course. So yes, fulfill the rights of the people or creation in whole, and never ever expect anything back. Point number 3, remove pain or distress from others, but never expect them to help you in times of need. So if you know anybody who's suffering, be it financially, physically, mentally, because mental health is a big thing, try to remove them from their distress, or remove their pain, regardless of who they are. Especially if you know they are not the kind of person to reciprocate this assistance. If you know the type of person who will not help you, it could be somebody who doesn't like you, it could be one of your haters, it could be somebody you don't talk to, your neighbour. Unfortunately, the time we're living in, we don't know our neighbours. We don't know if they're struggling, financially or anything. We don't know. No. Us as Muslims, we should be going out there and asking our neighbours, asking them, are you okay? How are you doing today? Is there anything I can do to help you? There's no harm, there's no shame. It's a good thing. You want to do dawah, I'm telling you, this is the best way of doing dawah, is through your characteristics, your character as a person, how you talk to people, how you talk to Muslims and non-Muslims, how do you talk to your haters and your friends. Like our blessed teacher said, that if you're only good to those that are good towards you, then what's good are you? Really, it's easy to be nice to people. Oh, Assalamu brother, how you doing? Smiley faces. That's easy. The challenge is to be nice to those that have offended you, they have harmed you, they have abused you. That's the challenge. But like any challenge in life, the greater the challenge, the greater the reward. And there is no greater reward than to gain His pleasure. Again, I'm going to go back to the kids. I'm sorry, children, because you're for some holidays, I'm not going to let you go today. I'm going to ask you again and again. Who here studies history? Does anybody here do history? Do you study anything? Because you never put your hand up for this. There's a brother here. Okay, one hand. Okay, Jonathan. You do history? Yes? MashaAllah. And you're in primary school? Fantastic. Okay. You won't know the answer to this, so I'm going to leave you alone now. Now, for those that have studied history, now everybody listen, because you all need to pay attention, not just the youth. Hands up if you studied the life of Alexander the Great. From Macedonia, anybody? No one. Okay. See, Alexander the Great, for anybody who knows anything about him, they accomplished a lot. In terms of Dunyawi standards, they conquered many countries, many nations, in a very short period of time as well. Now, Alexander the Great, there was a period of time where they were chasing a particular enemy called Darius. Siobhan, you probably know the story. No? Excellent. He has a degree in history, doesn't know the story. Good, I can tell you the story then. Okay. So he was chasing an enemy called Darius, and he spent years with his army chasing this enemy. Years. And it got to the point that his army, Alexander the Great's army, became so tired and so exhausted, so depressed, so, as we say, soul destroyed. They were losing the plot. they couldn't catch this enemy called Darius. And they became, obviously mentally, they were damaged and they were hard, they were physically, there was malnutrition going on, there was dehydration, and they were gone. And they were so dehydrated that they were in a particular place and they couldn't find any water for the troops, or for anyone, to be fair. And what's happened was there was another army was going past, somebody else, and there were some troops going past, and they had water in their sacks. You'd have sacks back then, So they had water, and then when they found out this is Alexander the Great, they offered some water. So they brought some water over to the leader, as you would, and they poured the water into a helmet. And a helmet is so big, if anybody's ever tried a helmet on, not that anybody would in this day and age, but a helmet is only so big. Think of the size of your head. How much water can you fill in this helmet? So they brought the water over and presented it to the leader, Alexander the Great. Now, what's happened next was quite impeccable, because here he is, the leader of the army, with a helmet full of water. And he looked at the water, and he is dehydrated, he's exhausted, he's tired, and he looks at his troops, who are also in the same state, if not worse. He looks at the water, he looks at his troops, and then he says, "It would be unfair for me to drink this water while all my troops are thirsty. Therefore, I cannot accept this gift." And he returned the water to the one that gave it. Now, upon hearing this, upon his troops hearing this, their troops became energetic. They saw a leader who led by example. Upon hearing this, the troops stood up as if they had already quenched their thirst. All the troops stood up and they approached their leader and they said, "Let's find Darius now. Let's chase him and let's kill him now." They were full of energy, full of vigor. Just because the leader refused to take water, because all the troops will be still thirsty. The lesson to be learned that, leading by example goes a long way. Now, he was not willing to take any water because his troops were still thirsty. And obviously the rest is history, what's happened afterwards. Speaking of leaders, I'm hoping everybody here knows Hazrat Saladin Ayyubi, rahmatullah alayhi. Okay. So, just a brief example into their blessed life. Obviously, this was a Muslim leader, Muslim ruler, very righteous, pious person. And they were actually a product of the madrasa system. They actually had a sound, a very, ground intellect. They knew Aqidah, fiqh, all these things, something myself and yourself should be constantly trying to learn more and more of. And what's happened was, during the Crusades, they were obviously fighting the Christian Crusaders, and there was a particular general, or not, the king, sorry, should I say, the king of the Christians at the time, King Tiberius, I believe his name was, and they were a leper. Now, if anybody doesn't know what a leper is, it's a very severe and foul skin condition, and it's not particularly nice to look at. When someone's a leper, they cover up everything, even the head and the face. So this king, the condition or the seriousness of his leprosy was rather bad, and they were fully covered, especially under the sun. So what's happened was, there was a particular occasion where this king, this Christian king, and he was a very pious Christian, very, in his religion, very religious, very pious person, and this is something Hazrat Saladin Ayyubi rahmatullah alayhi saw and knew and acknowledged and accepted. Okay, he's a Christian, however, he's a God-fearing person. Now, the blessed personality, what he did was something many rulers today will not do, perhaps. The Saladin Ayyubi rahmatullah alayhi, they had their own personal doctors. You need a doctor, obviously. And he would sometimes even let his doctor, he would send his doctor to go help this Christian king. This is how much compassion he had, even though this is an enemy, even though he's a Christian crusader, he's a king, yet all he saw was creation in need. All that he wanted to do, all they wanted to do was remove the distress as much as they could. He said, "Here, take my doctor, if he can help you, he will help you." So a lesson for myself and yourself, and if you have any enemies, they can be most likely a family member in this day and age. No, our path is to help those. If they've harmed you, it doesn't matter. Try to benefit the person. Like our blessed teacher said, whenever you see anybody, whenever you meet somebody, regardless of who they are, or where they're from, or their background, ask yourself this question: how can I benefit them? That's it. And when I apply this, I'll be honest, in my own life, I can tell you the miracle that I've seen in my own eyes. This works. There's a famous hadith, Sharif, that, again, I'm going to paraphrase to this effect. The question was asked, what's the main reason that people enter Jannah? What's the main reason why people enter heaven? No, I'm not going to go into too much detail about this, but Hazrat Maulana Idris, they mentioned there were three things, and they elaborated. There were three divine people who will be blessed on the Day of Judgment by being entered into Jannah. The first category, or the first people, or the first, I should say, a person in general, is the one that facilitates marriage for somebody who's struggling. The one that helps somebody get married. Because obviously marriage is a holy, relationship and a contract between a husband and wife. So the person that helps somebody get married, especially when you know they're struggling, and in this day and age people struggle mostly because of money. Alhamdulillah, the Bar Welfare Trust has this option available. Yourself can help somebody get married, especially in the more poorer countries around the world. So this is the first category of people that will be entering the Jannah, just because they helped two people get married lawfully. Category number two, the person or people who cover the faults of others. People that cover somebody's mistakes. If you see somebody doing wrong, keep quiet. Don't tell anybody about it. If you see somebody doing something you know is haram, just, obviously try to guide them in a beautiful manner, but don't tell anybody. There's no need to tell anybody. The person that covers somebody else's faults, your faults. Fact. Ask yourself, and you know very well the mistakes you made, I know the mistakes I made in my life. How many times have you made a mistake or committed a sin, regardless of what it is? And Allah Ta'ala has not told anybody about it. Ask yourself. And we're all sinners, we've all made mistakes. So now we need to reflect this sifat onto creation. In our faults, we should veil the faults of others. So this is the second. We live in a time where people are overly critical, unfortunately, and with social media this doesn't help. A person can see a particular post, perhaps they misunderstand. They start typing it and then give their criticism. The problem is nowadays, too many people, they are quick to criticize, slow to reflect. So many people, they're very quick to criticize others, but they are very slow when it comes to reflection. And people think, oh, it's my opinion, I'm entitled to my opinion. Maybe. Doesn't mean your opinion is correct. The fault could be within you. Maybe you misunderstood what somebody said or what somebody has done. Perhaps you don't know somebody did something and you don't know the legal ruling behind it. I mean, be very careful in telling people other people's faults. So, this is of social media, like I said, and this is unfortunately one of the signs of end of times. One of the signs of the Day of Judgment is that people will be impressed by their own opinion. People will be impressed. Oh, this is my opinion. Oh, this is a very good opinion. Oh, I love my opinion. This is one of the signs of the Day of Judgment. And whenever you hear of a sign, trust me, it's not a good thing. So this in itself, always give my opinion, is my right. I can say whatever I want. So be ready for the consequences. So this is Medina Sharif when a person walked in the rest of the masjid and began to urinate on one side. So what did the Prophet ﷺ do? They literally veiled his fault. They got a sheet and veiled him. They didn't start telling the person, what are you doing? Or the Sahabi didn't say anything. No, they veiled the fault of the person. He didn't know, obviously, the adab, the etiquettes of a masjid. If they do this, what does that say the likes of me and you? What should we be doing? So unfortunately, you have people now, they see one thing and they go, oh, brother, what you're doing is haram, bid'ah, you're fasting, all these horrible things start going heavily. No, just chill, just take it easy. Advise the person in a beautiful manner, but veil the faults of others. And the third category, we are told, of the people who will enter Jannah are those that serve others, those that do khidmah. Not help others, serve others. Like we have the brothers here, the khidmah brothers, mashallah, doing an excellent job as always. The media people and the sisters do a lot as well, more than a lot of brothers to be fair in many ways. Those that serve others. Now ask yourself, who can you serve who perhaps you've not served before? Who can you serve perhaps you've never even thought about before? Now go and apply this. So, moving on, because time is short, the fourth advice the Blessed Imam gave was to receive pain. Receive pain. Allow yourself to be hurt by people or anything else, but never ever give it back. Meaning, be able to receive abuse, receive insults, etc., but never ever return this. Muslims are not like this. We are people of forbearance. Our Messenger ﷺ received a lot of insults, a lot of abuse, a lot of pain, yet they never ever gave it back. All they gave back to everybody, all people that hated him and that didn't believe him, all they gave back was goodness. That's it. That was a message from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to the Messenger ﷺ, to me and you. Now we need to go and apply this. And Muharram is only a week or two away. Lessons to be in Muharram. Look at the Blessed Imam, Hazrat Imam Hussain. Look at their blessed life, especially towards the end in Karbala. Look at the messages just from them alone. The blessed grandson of the Prophet ﷺ, what did they do in Karbala? They receive ultimate pain from the people there, from the army of Yazid, people on the side of Yazid and his people. He received ultimate pain. He saw his blessed family being martyred. He saw his blessed child, who was a baby, being martyred. And ultimately they were martyred as well. But they never, ever, even up to the point of death, gave anything negative back. All they gave back was invitation, dawah, goodness, follow me, listen to me, take my advice. And they even said to the nearest effect, in my own words, that they said that if you join me now, I will intercede for you on the day of judgment. All the way to the end, they gave goodness, never ever negativity or abuse or harm. So this is, obviously, look at the life of any companion really, especially the ones in the early stages of Islam. They went through immense pain, immense suffering. Like the blessed personality mentioned before, Hazrat Uthman, they gave up even expensive land in Makkah. When they migrated over to Medina Sharif, they received immense amounts of abuse in many different forms. Yet they never ever gave negativity or harm back to people. You know, there's a funny thing, I remember just recently actually, you know, when I was a kid, I can't remember how old I was, it was summer holidays, you know, you go to the masjid with your friends and you pray together, which is nice. There's one friend of mine, I won't say his name, and I know he won't mind me saying this, there's one friend of mine, and it sounds bad me saying this now, but I didn't like being next to him, because it was very uncomfortable sitting next to him. You know when you go on Sajda, you put your hands down and head down. This friend of mine, he would do like his hands there, like, you know, press a position, he'd go out, and his elbows would stick out into my face. So I'm there in Sajda with the elbow in my face like this, you know, it's really uncomfortable. You know, you go down in Sajda, you know, sometimes you come back up with a black eye or something, you know. I used to really fear this, and every time I go to the masjid, I would pray, no, please don't. And then when I go to the masjid, I'm late, right, let's pray next to him, right, okay. Except he would always like dig his elbow in. Whether he did it on purpose or not, I don't know, but it was quite funny thinking back. But, you know, bless him, you know, my blessed friend of mine. So this is something I remembered, but obviously, you know, you put your hands in, you know, don't harm the people around you. For example, people did Hajj recently, and obviously you do your tawaf and the Kaaba in an anti-clockwise manner. You know, if anybody who hasn't been to Hajj or Umrah, obviously, you know, it's a very highly populated place, you know, around the holy site. So just bear in mind, obviously, you know, try not to even harm people there. You're all there for a common goal, for a common purpose. Try not to, you know, hit people, you know, bump into people, you know. Try to be careful. So, receive pain and don't give it back. You see, when it comes to verbal abuse, when it comes to insults or swearing and all these things, try to find the strength to be silent when somebody swears out to you. Try to find the strength to be silent when somebody abuses verbally, because silence takes strength. That's a fact. To be quiet when you know you're right and somebody's wrong takes immense strength. Because the Prophet ﷺ said to the effect that the person that gives up arguing, knowing he is correct, I will give him a house in the centre of Jannah. In the centre of heaven, that person will have a house because they did not say anything when they knew especially they were correct. And this is obviously, is Brother Zain here? Zain or? No, okay. Because once I was in the car with Brother Zain and with brothers, and where's Surf gone? Surf, where are you? Oh, okay. I don't know where he is, he's gone. So look, Seth was there as well, and in fact, I think Seth fell asleep at this point in the car. And I was driving the car and I put the Hadith Sharif on, and it was in the form of a naat. And some of you probably perhaps heard this before, and there's a story about the old woman, and she had luggage with her, and this was the time of the Prophet ﷺ. She had this luggage, an old woman, she couldn't carry it, obviously, she just struggled. So the Prophet ﷺ offered to assist this woman, and she wasn't a Muslim. So they, went along began this journey, and throughout the whole journey, this old woman kept talking ill of the Prophet ﷺ, saying he's done this, he's done that, he's causing this problem, he's giving me a headache, he's really on my head, and I'm tired of this, I'm sick of this, etc., etc. Yet throughout the whole journey, the Prophet ﷺ never once defended themselves. They stayed quiet. They kept carrying this woman's luggage. This woman was there talking ill about the Prophet ﷺ, not knowing who this person was next to them, and yet they had the strength to remain quiet. It's an old woman, what can you say to a woman, first of all? Especially, for me and you, perhaps, we'll probably defend ourselves, well, hang on, do you know who I am? That's not true what happened, this is what really happened. And people obviously defend themselves, but yet they had the strength to remain quiet. Now, what's happened at the end of the journey was nothing less of a miracle. So they would arrive at the destination, and the woman asked, young man, what's your name? Obviously, they spoke the truth. They told the woman who they were. At this point, the woman had some wisdom. She realized, hold on, this whole time I was saying so many bad things. Not once did you say something back to me. You know what she did? Shahada. She became Muslim, seeing the actions of this particular individual, this very blessed person. Because, like I said before, actions speak louder than words. You can defend yourself as much as you want verbally, but actions are louder than words. Because this blessed personality, the Messenger of Sallam, they had the strength to be quiet. They had the strength for silence. Now, if you don't have, just yet, the strength to be quiet when somebody is telling lies about you, at least develop the power to pause. Just develop the power to pause as much as you can. Let's develop this power, because the blessed companion, Hazrat Abu Bakr Siddiq, once what happened was, again, I'm going to paraphrase, they were in a particular room, and there was a person who was falsely alleging something happened. It was a false allegation going against the blessed companion. Now, the blessed companion was with the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and this person sat with them as well. He kept going on and on about, this has happened and he did this, etc., etc. False allegations. And for a long time, the blessed companion just sat quietly, didn't say anything. Now, while this was going on, the Messenger ﷺ sat there and they were smiling. So you've got a third person talking rubbish about the blessed companion, and the Prophet ﷺ smiling. What's happened was, after a while, the blessed companion began to speak up and defend themselves. They began to speak. At this point, the Messenger ﷺ stood up and left the room. Now, afterwards, when this conversation had finished, the blessed companion left, and they approached the Messenger ﷺ asking, what's happened? They didn't understand what just happened there. Because when I'm sat quietly and this person's talking ill about me and telling lies, essentially, you're smiling. But when I spoke to defend myself, you left. Now listen to the reply. The Prophet ﷺ said, when he was talking about you and you were quiet, I saw the angels defend you. I saw the angels defend you while you were quiet. But the moment you opened your mouth and began to defend yourself and speak, Shaitan came into the room, and me and Shaitan cannot be in the same room together. You see, at this time, the blessed companion, had the power to pause. They paused and paused as long as they could, and then obviously they spoke, however. You see, at the time, they didn't understand the strength of silence, how powerful silence is. When you're right, afterwards they did. So, like I said, silence takes strength, but find the power to pause. There was a famous Persian sultan once, and there were two people he was about to sentence to death, two like criminals, and one of the criminals had some wisdom. So he said to the sultan, he said, give me 1 year, just give me 1 year, and you can hang me in 1 year, or kill me 1 year. And the Sultan said, why would I do that? He said, I will train your stallion, or horse, I will train him to fly. I have this power, I can teach horses to fly. So the Sultan was very, very impressed. Oh, I'll be the only Sultan, the only ruler with a flying horse. I'll be unique, you know. So the Sultan said, okay, I'll give you 1 year. In 1 year's time, you're dead. So now the other thief, the other criminal, said to this criminal, he said, what was that? I don't understand. You know, horses can't fly, stallions can't fly. So the other criminal said, true, I'm only delaying the inevitable. However, I've just bought 4 potential ways to freedom. I found 4 ways I could probably be freed in the next year. He said, 1, in this next year, the Sultan could die. 2, I could die. 3, the horse could die. Or 4, the horse could fly. Meaning all he was doing really was delaying the inevitable. He was just pausing, he was just delaying or staggering this sentence. Because one of these 4, well, obviously 3 would happen, but the 4th one was a joke. Meaning he was just delaying it. He was trying to pause what was going to come anyway. So there's some wisdom behind the story that, next time somebody's, trying to harm you in any way, just find the power to pause at least, because somebody could happen. Somebody could distract you or end the conversation, or something could happen. You see, the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ said, and the reason why we're here on every Friday for character development, because they said to them as effect, I was sent to perfect good character. And that's why they said they were sent to perfect good character. And part of good character is just being quiet. And this is their words. Now, on Friday, like I said before, some people read Surah Al-Kahf, and perhaps you read it today. Now, can I just have a raise of hands? Has anybody recently ever read the translation of this blessed surah? Has anybody read the translation? Okay, a few people, alhamdulillah. If you haven't, it's a good idea to read the majestic Quran, perhaps. You see, in the 18th surah, in the 19th ayah, in chapter 18, verse 19, there's a word in there, and this word is the central word of the Holy Quran. It's right in the middle of the Holy Quran. And the reason why I'm saying this, because if you find the center of anything, let's say an oyster, the center of the oyster is a pearl, very precious, and the center of a gold mine is gold, very precious. The central word of the Holy Quran says something about the Holy Quran. Now, before I tell you what this word is, can anybody here just tell me in 1 word or 2, what do you think the Quran's actually about? Anybody? What do you think it's about, the Quran, in general? Sorry, yes. Sorry, I can't hear you with the fans. What did you say? A guide. Okay, fantastic. It's a guide. Good. Anyone else?
Basically, it's a criteria to life, from start to finish.
A criteria to life, start to finish. Okay, mashallah, well done. Very good answers. Very true. In 1 word, the Holy Quran is about, I'm not saying you're wrong, by the way, and you'll see why. I want to elaborate. In 1 word, all the Quran is about mankind. Mankind. It begins with the blessed name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and ends with an-nas, mankind. How does mankind achieve his closeness? How does mankind achieve his pleasure? So yes, it's a guide, of course, and there are stories, the prophets and other lessons to be learned from the Holy Quran. But in 1 word, the Quran is about mankind. Now, going back to the central word of the Holy Quran, وَلْيَتَلَطَّفْ, comes from the blessed name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Al-Latif. It means to be gentle. To be gentle. For He is the gentle, and we can reflect His sifat to creation, be gentle. Meaning, don't be harsh to people, especially if you know they're wrong, be gentle. And the Prophet ﷺ said, he used to say that about them, if they were harsh in character, people would have fled and Islam wouldn't have spread, obviously, as it is today. Meaning, be gentle to people, whether it's your partner, it's your children, it's your neighbour, your colleague, etc. Be gentle. Invite them to Islam, invite them to goodness with gentleness. And the fact that that's the central word of the Holy Quran speaks volumes in itself. You see, in Aesop's fables, for anybody who studies ancient Greek literature, or any literature really, Aesop's fable, they tell a story of the sun and the wind. And the two once had a conversation. The sun and the wind had a conversation. And they said they wanted to find out who's more powerful, the sun or the wind. So they made a deal together. The sun and the wind said, okay, the next person who walks this land, let's see who can make him take off his robe, his clothes. Let's see who's more powerful. So a person came and they were wrapped up, quite well. So the wind went first. So the wind started with a gentle breeze, nothing happened. Then the wind became stronger, began to blow more. Okay, so he took off his outer, like a jacket, and he's got his shirt on. So the wind blew full force, and the person obviously, took it off. But again, he wasn't fully, he didn't take off everything. So now it's the sun's turn. So the sun, in its wisdom, it just began to shine normally, and then it gradually became slightly warmer, and the person, it's warm, very hot and very warm, took off his jacket. A few more degrees, gently became warmer and warmer, took off his shirt. Gently, a few more degrees, took off his shoes and his trousers, and obviously left with the underpants, etc. And ultimately, the wind was tired of blowing so hard, but the sun had very gradually, gently became warmer and warmer. And at the end, they both agreed the sun won this competition because the sun was very gentle. 1 degree extra, 1 degree extra, 1 degree extra. Now think back on Monday, Tuesday, how hot it was over here, 38 degrees. Okay, that was a heat wave, but when the sun gets warm, it gets warm, and you have no choice. Because when the wind was blowing, at first the person didn't want his clothes to fly away, so he held stronger and tighter. Only when it was blowing full force, he was forced to take off his clothes. He was forced. But the sun gently made the person himself take off his own clothes. Lesson to be learned, gentleness goes further than force. And the last point, to finish off, inshallah, don't cut ties with your relations. Don't cut ties with your uncles, your aunties, your brothers, your sisters, etc. Even though they may have wronged you and you're right, please don't cut ties with them completely. Try to establish and maintain some form of relationship. Even if it's just salam dua, try to keep something. And you look at the life of the Prophet ﷺ, how they treated the likes of Abu Jahl, somebody who was horrific towards the Messenger ﷺ, and yet they had the heart and the love and the compassion to constantly invite them towards the deen. And that in itself speaks volumes, because I'm sure none of our relatives are as horrible as Abu Jahl. I don't know, but lesson to be learned, we should emulate the Messenger ﷺ internally and externally, the way they were with people, etc. Because, like I said before, whoever creates ease for creation, Allah Ta'ala makes ease for them. And if you don't think this will work, if you don't believe this, that if you are nice to your relatives, those that have harmed you, if you really don't believe that Allah Ta'ala can change their heart, then you're wrong. There's nothing Allah Ta'ala cannot do. We know this. There's nothing you can probably think, well, this person is so horrible, they mistreated my parents, they insulted me, they've stolen my property. Never ever think their heart cannot be changed. Never ever give up on that person, because Allah Ta'ala can do everything and anything. For example, today it was raining in the daytime. Have you ever pondered how many raindrops fall on the face of the earth every day? How many trillions, or I don't know how many more. Yet every single raindrop lands by the permission of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. He is in control of everything. He controls anything and everything you could possibly think of. I'll give you a very extreme example. In the movies you see people shooting with a gun or a pistol. Even in real life, people go to war and there's firing going on. A person can pull a trigger easily. They can shoot a bullet anywhere, that's fine. But ultimately, Allah Ta'ala decides where that bullet lands. He decides. Whether it hits the target or not, it doesn't matter. You can pull a trigger towards a target, but Allah Ta'ala decides where that bullet going to land. And He can control this. He can certainly control the hearts of your enemies or your haters. Because if you apply these 5 things from the Blessed Imam, if you truly try to apply them now, so try to have some people in mind, some targets in mind, who you are going to apply these to. Like the Blessed Maulana Junadi Rahmatullah alayhi used to say, that when we practice loving kindness and compassion, we are the first to benefit. You're the beneficiaries. You're the one who's going to benefit by applying these 5 golden rules. And our Messenger, they were obviously the greats of creation, and we have obviously Rahmatul Alameen. We want to benefit anyone and everyone we possibly can. The Prophet ﷺ said that the best of you, talking to us, the best of you is the one who's most beneficial to creation. And this is something myself and yourself can certainly try to acknowledge and apply. For example, the likes of the awliya, the mashayikh, the awliya salihin, such as Hazrat Sayyid Ali Khawas, they used to even benefit the ants in their garden. They would see the ants coming every day to find food. They would even go and put food near their hole so they don't have to travel too far, because obviously ants walk distances and people step on them by mistake. So he would go and put food just to feed the ants. This is their level of thinking. This is how big their heart was, how conscious they were of creation. And if you really want to be the friend of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if you are serious about, and I'm talking to myself, not you, but it's really myself, if I really want to achieve walaya and become a friend of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then I have to get this one thing in my head, that I have to first be the friend of creation. I have to. This is how it works. This is how it's always been. Does anybody here know the shortest poem in the world? I'm guessing not many people are into poetry anymore, but does anybody hear the shortest poem? Don't put your hand up, because I know you haven't. Okay? Good boy. The shortest poem in the world was actually written by Muhammad Ali, the late boxing legend. He actually wrote the shortest poem in the world, and everybody here will learn this today. It's very easy, very short. The shortest poem in the world goes like this. Me, we. That's it. 2 words. Me, we. If you want to benefit me or yourselves, you have to benefit the we, people. Me and we go hand in hand. They're not two separate things. Me, we. And this is what he was trying to get across by being compassionate. And he was obviously, history has proven he was kind to, and not just African Americans, but to the white people of America, to Jewish people. He did a lot of charity work. So he wrote this poem called Me, We. So if anybody asks you the shortest poem in the world, now you know the shortest poem. So this is something like I said we can apply, and I'm going to finish soon, inshallah, because it's time for namaz and the amaz, inshallah. Now, tazkiyah, where does tazkiyah come into all of this? Where does the tasawwuf come into all of this? Everything I've said, the 5 key points, what's the tazkiyah have to do with this? Well, like our blessed teacher, Hazrat Shaykh Ahmad al-Baqir said that tazkiyah is the art of repetition. It's all about doing the right thing again and again. Stopping doing the bad thing again and again, doing the right thing again and again. With all the 7 organs, the heart and the mind. So tazkiyah, in this case, you could say, you have the 5 key points from the Blessed Imam. You have perhaps 5 targets in mind, 5 people you wish to apply this to. So tomorrow, whenever you see this person, now be conscious, okay, now, I know this person has such a bad habit or a trait. I know what he's like. I'm going to do this to him. I'm going to respond positively. I'm going to help this person. Even if you fail, that's fine. You tried at least. But guess what happened? Tomorrow's another day. Again, you try. You try with the same person again. Be nice to the person again. They may push your buttons, and they probably will, because people do this. They may test you. But your job is to apply these 5 points again and again. Has anybody heard of, I mentioned this a while ago, Herb Brooks? Anybody heard of Herb Brooks? He's a very famous North American ice hockey coach, Herb Brooks. Herb Brooks is quite an interesting character because he used to coach the North American ice hockey team. And before he achieved national level qualification of being a coach, he used to obviously coach smaller teams. Herb Brooks did something once very famous and became famous afterwards because he had a team of players and he had to make an all-star team. Now, an all-star team, normally what the coach does, they select the best defender, the best midfield, the best attacker, the best goalie, etc. And they put them together. Now, he saw a flaw in this concept. He thought, well, quite rightly so, that if you get all the big players, let's say you have Ronaldo and Messi and all the other players, then you have this clash of egos, clash of nafs. And obviously everybody wants to make a name for themselves, they want the first prize, etc., first place. So he carefully selected his whole team, not on who's the best defender, but who would work together as a team. And he did this, and there was lots of backlash and protest, but he did this anyway in the end. Now, what's happened was, the team has still not got the hint or the message he was trying to get across, because when they will play the qualifiers towards the Olympics, so just before the Olympics, he still realised they weren't a team, they weren't playing as a team. And he decided to teach them a lesson they'll never forget. So after the match, he kept them back and he said, okay, you don't want to work hard during the match, let's work hard now. And he made them do sprints again and again and again. And he did this for many hours until the penny dropped. Because he saw they were looking out for themselves, not looking out for the team. Until the penny dropped and they all submitted and they all understood, this is a team sport. We is more important than me. They couldn't win individual medals unless the team won. And he said, obviously he got the message across that the team on the front, the written on the front, is more important than the name on the back. And to finish off, inshallah, like I said, I mentioned the blessed personality of Hazrat Uthman, anhu. A very blessed personality who recently, obviously, we remember their martyrdom. They gave up their money, their time, their intellect, and they even bought a well for the people so they could benefit. And inshallah, maybe next time somebody will mention their blessed accomplishments in this life and the next. But never forget, on the day of judgment, when all hope will be lost, the last saviour of mankind will be the Messenger Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. But on the last day, to finish off, on the last day, they will not be saying me, me. They will not be saying nafsi, nafsi. They will say ummati, ummati, my ummah. Meaning we. That's who they'll be concerned about. Not me, me. They're focusing and worried about me, we. So if I said anything that's benefited you, then all praise is due to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Only the mistakes are mine.
If anybody does want to take practical steps to come closer to the Prophet ﷺ and learn the skills that the Ustad were mentioning, inshallah, there's a course of purification that we offer in this Zawiya. So if anybody does want to know more about it, we'll be taking time out for after Maghrib and after food, and we can go over the course of purification so for yourselves. Now, just some general announcements to be made. There'll be a Sisters Open Day in Bolton on Sunday 24th of July at 2:30 p.m. There's also Brothers Islamic classes in Hyde starting on Sunday 7th of August from 5 p.m. till 7 p.m. going over Aqidah, Fiqh, Tajweed and Tazkiyah. And in Bolton there's a Brothers Burial class that will be on Saturday 27th of August from 2 p.m. till 7 p.m. And you'll be learning what a person does at the time of death, learning how to bathe the deceased, how to shroud the deceased, and also how to bury the deceased. Now, also there's one-to-one, if anybody does need a one-to-one support of how to mend their relationship with Allah Azza wa Jal, or they need to see a support mentor, or they need to see an Ustad for healing, please give your name to Brother Umair. And also there's food after Maghrib as well. Now if you want to just stand up, let some blood rush to your legs and refresh the three keys again, that Allah is with me, Allah sees me and Allah hears me. And the lights will now be turned off for focus, and follow the person who will be leading the zikr. And this will be a loud zikr, so join in loudly as well. And if any people, if you can forward a bit more, so as there's people stood up at the back, so we can get more people into the hall. Jazakallah. If you want to just make a semicircle now.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. صدق الله العظيم. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. مولاي صل وسلم دائما أبدا. مولاي صل وسلم دائما أبدا. مولاي صل وسلم دائما أبدا على حبيبك خير الخلق كلهم. على حبيبك خير الخلق كلهم. محمد سيد الكونين والثقلين. محمد سيد الكونين والثقلين والفريقين من قرب ومن نجم. مولاي صل وسلم دائما أبدا. مولاي صل وسلم دائما أبدا على حبيبك خير الخلق. فاعلم أنه لا إله إلا الله 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 لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله لا إلا الله 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 حسبي ربي جل الله ما في قلبي غير الله حسبي ربي جل الله ما في قلبي غير الله نور محمد صلی اللہ لا الہ الا اللہ الا اللہ الا اللہ الا اللہ الا اللہ الا اللہ اللہ الهادي إلا هو أنت الهادي أنت الهادي ليس الهادي إلا هو الله 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 لا إله إلا الله محمد رسول الله رب اغفر وارحم وأنت خير الراحمين 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 أستغفر الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم وأتوب إليه أستغفر الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم وأتوب إليه أستغفر الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم وأتوب إليه اللهم صل على سيدنا ومولانا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم اللهم صل على سيدنا ومولانا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم اللهم صل على سيدنا ومولانا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين یا اول الاولین یا آخر الاخرین یا راحم المساکین یا ذا القوة المتین یا ذا الجلال والاکرام یا ربی یا رحمان رب ارحمهما كما ربياني صغيرا اللهم اغفر لجميع امتي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم ربنا تقبل منا انك انت السميع العليم وتب علينا انك انت التواب الرحيم یا الہ العالمین یا مالک یا اول یا آخر یا ظاہر یا باطن اپنے فضل اور کرم سے اس مجلس نصیحہ تلاوت نعت ذکر کو اپنی بارگاہ میں قبول و منظور فرما یا الہ العالمین اس کا ثواب نبی علیہ الصلوۃ والسلام کی بارگاہ میں ہدیۃً تحفۃً پھر آل بیت اطہار سیدنا آدم علیہ الصلوۃ والسلام سے لے کے آپ تک اور قیامت کے دن تک جتنے بھی لوگ فوت ہو جائیں گے یا آ چکے ہیں یا آنے والے ہیں ان کی ارواح کو اصال ثواب کرتے ہیں قبول و منظور فرما یا الہ العالمین خصوصاً اس مجلس کا ثواب سیدنا عثمان بن عفان رضی اللہ تعالی عنہ ان کی بارگاہ میں ان کی روح کو اصال ثواب کرتے ہیں قبول و منظور فرما آپ کے درجات کو بلند فرما آپ کا فیض ہمیں نصیب فرما سیدنا شیخ عبدالعزیز دباغ سیدنا عبدالقادر الجیلانی خصوصاً سیدنا احمد دباغ مولا کریم ان کے درجات کو بلند فرما یا الہ العالمین ہمارے شیخ ہمارے ٹیچر ہمارے استاذ ان کو صحت اور شفاء کاملہ عاجلہ عطا فرما یا الہ العالمین جتنے بھی حاضرین اس مجلس میں ہیں بہنیں بھائی بزرگ بچے مولا کریم ان کی دلی جائز حاجات کو پورا فرما اگر کوئی بیمار ہے تو اس کی بیماری کو دور فرما کوئی بے اولاد ہے تو اس کو صالح نیک اولاد عطا فرما کوئی رشتہ ازواج میں بندھنا چاہتا ہے مولا کریم اپنے فضل اور کرم سے نیک رشتے عطا فرما رزق میں کشادگی عطا فرما مولا کریم حیا اور عمل والی ایمان والی زندگی عطا فرما ایمان والا نیکوکاری والا نیک اعمال کے اوپر خاتمہ نصیب فرما یا الہ العالمین تجھ سے وہ دعائیں مانگتے ہیں جو نبی علیہ الصلوۃ والسلام نے مانگی اور ان چیزوں سے ان شرور سے تیری پناہ چاہتے ہیں جن سے نبی علیہ الصلوۃ والسلام نے پناہ مانگی سبحان ربک رب العزت عما یصفون والسلام علی المرسلین والحمد للہ رب العالمین.